Okay, so this is the point I'm going to hammer home repeatedly, only because it needs to be repeatedly hammered home. Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to repeat yourself.
Right.
We just live in a time now where people are being saturated and bombarded with distractions.
Yeah, it's very true.
Welcome to the Vibe Union Podcast, episode 13.
Woo! Bad luck?
Unlucky for some.
It's also Friday.
It is also Friday.
Oh,
damn.
Friday the
It's
13th.
stacking up.
And we don't do podcasts on Fridays, do we?
No, not normally.
No.
But quick turnaround on this one, I think, is the way.
That's it.
As you know, my name is Emkew. You may not know that, but in case you didn't, this over here to my right is my man, Dilly Dave. Dave Dilly.
All right there. Good to see you. Good to be.
He's the man. And over to the other side, we've got Amutha.
Hello.
Woo woo. We are here, Vibe Union Podcast. As always, thank you for joining us. Thanks for clicking on whatever one of us suggested or YouTube suggested at you automatically, algorithmically. Here's to YouTube. Hit that like and that subscribe button so you can get more of this awesome content. Yep.
Can't believe it.
Also, everyone here.
Well said.
Right? It's
Powerful.
left us dumbfounded. All right, so
Continue on.
welcome to 2021.
Housekeeping, I think is what they call it. Let's continue with the housekeeping.
Let's continue with the housekeeping. Please turn off your mobile phones unless you're watching on a mobile phone. Then keep your mobile phone on. We need those watch minutes. Over here, let's keep our phones off and out of the way. What else we got? Any other housekeeping? Anything else that comes to mind?
I think that's about it.
I think
Yeah.
it's
Just keep watching.
Keep
is the
watching.
other
just the
part of that.
acknowledgement, I believe.
Absolutely. That's a really, really critical point. So we here at Vibe Union would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, play, work, and enjoy life. They are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay respects to their elders, past, present, emerging, and anyone that's watching, we want to acknowledge and pay respect to you as well. It is important to have self-determination and sovereignty, and sovereignty was never ceded, and we all have a part to play.
You always deliver that so well. I just got to say,
Thank
like
you.
there's so much authenticity every time you do it. And you like, it sounds the same, but also it sounds like a little bit varied every time. And I just want to appreciate that for a moment.
I appreciate that because the flip side is that's not something I've rehearsed. And I kind of don't want to. I know that there's specific things in there, but it is kind of what feels right there and then. And it is more important than to go, this is like, here we all are. Not this is a meeting, but here's us.
Yeah.
And in amongst that, we do need to acknowledge this. So, I appreciate you saying that. And at the same time, like, that is actually like a super important thing. So yeah, that we do it, that we have these conversations about sovereignty and the fact that we're, getting to pitch in and play as part of a land back festival coming up on the 23rd and 24th of Jan, feels pretty powerful. So, I'm still learning. I think we're all still learning about how we can be better at coexistence and cohabitation of this overall freaking awesome continent.
Oh, yeah.
And getting to share in that I think is really crucial. So thanks.
No worries. I was going to say this really weaves in quite nicely to what we had prepared to talk about today, which was preparing for a show.
Yeah.
If you haven't read from the title.
Amutha, would you consider this a show?
Ooh, life is a show, right? Every aspect of life is a show.
So you're saying
Well-
right now we're partaking in life.
Yes.
Where I was going to call it a podcast, but you call it life.
This is life happening
There we
right
go.
now, isn't it?
This is what our life is right now.
Yes.
That one trips me up often. It's like doing something that is quite exceptional, like being on a stage and say like getting people to like move their hands around like this. A really exceptional, not the average experience that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Directing a crowd.
Directing a crowd.
Oh my God.
And in
Wow.
the midst of doing that, going, right, this is my life. This is still life. This is the same amount of life as when I woke up, yawned, and scratched my thigh.
I wonder if my breath smells.
Yeah, probably does.
Wow.
Right?
What
So
have
it
people
does feel
thought?
pretty cool that
Yeah.
that this gets to be life for us. And if you're watching this, if you've come to this video trying to refine your performance like mode and your practice, then you've come to the right place. And chances are you're
Welcome.
someone who is also living life in a really exceptional way. And in a way where you're often pinching yourself and going like, am I really doing this? So the next time you're up on a stage, you might catch yourself for just a moment and be like, oh my God, this is my life. And maybe you're a little bit shaky and a little bit nervy, but if you watch this video to the end, we promise you that you're going to feel a lot more confident in your ability to perform, own that performance, and keep living your life the best way that you know how.
Smooth sailing.
Beautiful. What a salesman.
Thank you.
Smooth sailing, what a salesman
Smooth
with
sailing,
Sailor Jerry.
what a salesman. Sailor Jerry. It's all connected.
Yes, everything's one thing.
Yeah. So I guess having a think about this topic coming into today, the main thing I wanted to do was dissect the last 2 performances we've had as a group, right? So we went and we performed at Lyrebird Lounge just before the new year. And then on January 1st of this year, we kicked off 2021 with a performance at Renaissance Festival, which I'd love to kind of dive into a little bit more down the line. But the best way we thought to be able to have this conversation was to pick it apart and understand how do we prepare for those shows and were we happy with the outcome? So let's actually start with that second question first. Were you happy with your performances at Lyrebird and Renaissance?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
And it wasn't just because like I felt good, but it's because everyone on the stage felt good. And that was amazing that we were all riding the same wave. That was the most rewarding part of the whole experience.
Agreed. All live performances are a little bit challenging and scary. And, there was quite a number of people around. It was a big stage, an open kind of space for people to dance and move around with. When we started, there were some people there. It was a bit more of a seated down vibe. And I feel like our music is quite up and jumpy in a way.
Get up and rage,
Yeah, kind of move with this. It was great though. I felt like we won over the crowd.
Yeah.
We got people in, and by the end of it, before Sikanda was on, we had the people there. It was great. People were moving. The kids were outperforming us in terms of dance. I'm sure if they had the microphones, they may have done all right as well. But yeah, it felt new for us because we had only once before that performed on stage.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, a couple times.
Yeah.
But we're still kind of like working out, it's like how Five and Backstreet Boys, like, take away their songs, but, you look at their music videos and their performances, like, they dance the hell.
Yeah.
Like, they're really wild dancers and movers. And we hadn't choreographed anything, we're just kind of like, moved around, doing our thing. And I guess, that was good. But very good. Very happy with the performance. I felt everyone bought their game. It was great. Yeah.
Wicked. Yeah, well, me too. I really enjoyed both performances. And I think what we'll get to in a sec is this sense of like warm-up, rehearsal. And I think when I initially reached out and looked into getting us that gig at Lyrebird Lounge, I kind of went into it with like, oh, sweet, finally like some stage time before Renaissance, right? Like really important to actually get to go up on a stage and test the chemistry out that we got to do in rehearsal. Yeah. And then the fact that in and of itself took over and became a gig in and of itself in a cool way where we each got to like showcase ourselves as artists and then lead into this big group performance, I was really happy with. And that we owned that space and just went, this is what we're doing right now. There's no consideration for a festival. Yeah. How do we take a room full of seated people and convince them to like get into what we're doing? Yeah. And I think we did that.
We definitely set ourselves up not to be overwhelmed. In the first place, so, before Lyrebird, the lead up to that is at least twice we got up together, did our full set, somewhere between, 5-8 times or whatever it was, maybe, over those couple sessions.
Yep.
And then also hopefully practiced a little bit by ourselves.
Yep.
So before we went into Lyrebird, we'd run it a little bit, not maybe as hard as we would for the stage, right? Just more of like getting a feel, feeling it out, like
getting acquainted with everything.
That's a really good way to put it. Like getting acquainted with everything, getting acquainted with each other on stage.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
that's important. Good chemistry changes the game.
And if we just like kind of rehearsed our stuff in our own time by ourselves, if we got up to stage at Lyrebird for the first time, I feel like we'd be a lot less, comfortable, happy, flowy, just ready to enjoy it regardless of like what's going on, what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I really agree with that. I think that lead up was really critical. And I guess something I want to touch on before we launch into all the things that we did, probably the first thing that we did that before getting on a stage, before even listening to music, before even deciding a set list, was we actually kind of asked each other about our intentions. And we said, what do we want out of this set? What do we want out of these shows? And we had a range of different opinions and ideas on that. We had, I want this to be an opportunity to up my stage presence. I want this to be an opportunity for us 5 to gel with one another. And those intentions helped us to then form a set list that went, okay, cool. Well, I think it would look better overall if at any given time there's sort of a baton passing kind of thing going on. So we don't all clear the stage, then 2 people come on, then both of those people leave and someone else. There's continuity.
Exactly.
And so getting to do that, having that comfort then within ourselves. So setting those intentions was really critical, helped us devise a really good set list. And I guess, I quickly want to get your ideas on set list and what you thought about that process of coming up with a list of songs.
I absolutely loved it. I actually, I never would have thought to do it because I'm more the person that just rocks up with a bunch of songs and just plays whatever I want on stage. However, the fact that we're working all together, we're all coming about it with different life experience and what we want to do, it was really nice to come to a mutual understanding of what we were trying to bring to the table, what we were trying to create, what we were trying to express, and then forming a kind of flow of energy through the music of okay, this is kind of how we want people to feel, and then we want to drop them down, and we want to pick them up, and then we want to throw them around. And I don't know, that whole process was incredible and so vital in helping us create the right atmosphere for the gigs.
And we definitely put a lot of time into that process. And I'm not sure if the number of tracks that we did for the live performance, like our 45-minute set, what is it, 12-ish tracks or something?
Thereabouts.
12 or 13.
Yeah.
And Vibe Union has put out 20 tracks. So there was actually a lot of thought in what to leave, what to include, and the why behind all of that. And definitely, the smallest of disagreements around what should be and the order of things.
Yeah.
But I think did you mention the passing of the baton?
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to articulate it. We wanted to, we started the spark in Connor's hands, and then it was passed round in a meaningful way all the way to the end. And yeah, definitely the order of the tracks worked, but we figured out why and how that could work.
Yeah.
And just diving into some of the whys, I guess if you're watching this then and you are wanting to construct a set list, thinking about the reasons to exclude stuff, I think is really important. I would consider us really blessed that we have a catalog of 20 tracks plus tracks that we individually have that can work as collab joints, which, Chaos especially does.
Right.
But then when we're able to go With You by Connor, when you played, was it Elevation Station? Or
I ended up going with Rise Up Dead Monkey. There's an unreleased one. So,
yeah. So having the blessing of this massive catalog is awesome. And then what you can do is whittle down and say, these 2 tracks are samey. This track actually is fun for us to play, but in terms of our intentions, and again, setting intentions at the start, our intention is to get the people up and moving. So why would we want to do a really lyrically dense, introspective, low vibe, offbeat time signature? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It has to translate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think those are some of the whys. Is if you can ask yourself those questions and compare them to your intention, then a lot of the decisions that you're going to make in this planning process and all the way through to performance, you're going to be very easily able to just go yes, no, which is another Amutha song.
Huge.
So I guess something I wanted to briefly touch on is this idea of promotion. Promoting yourself, your music, I think is a massive topic and definitely something for another day and a whole other episode, if not multiple. But I just want to kind of dive into what we did for this show. What did each of you do to kind of promote the show out to your people, and how did you find that?
So we were having a little bit of a discussion before the podcast, and I was saying how we're all in positions right now where our fans are people we know, friends and family, and we don't have we can't generate fans outside of that circle at the moment. So it's very difficult to promote your show when no one really gives a shit about you, right?
Very
you
well
know,
said.
and maybe you've invited your friends a few times, and they just don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
So what I found is this. I'm gonna test this out. So I don't know if this is actually going to work, but like I had a wedding recently, and I actually sang for the wedding. And after the wedding, people came up to me and were asking about my music. And then I said, well, I've got a live show coming up. You guys should come. And that was kind of a nice moment where like I was thinking, you know, people just need to know what they're getting themselves into. Like maybe you could sell yourself a little bit by singing in the corner at like a family party or whatever. And then people might curious about you and then be like, you know, I actually do want to see you live. So that's for like, you know, where we're at right now. That's our best promotion. Well, that's my best promotional strategy.
Can I ask you a question, Amutha?
Yes.
Have you followed up with any of those people?
So this only happened recently.
Yeah.
I know 100% that 3 people are going to come.
But based on what?
Based on me just being like, you need to come and see me. Like you absolutely need to come and see me. Like I'm just not taking no for an answer.
Okay, but how many times? Just on that day?
Just on that day, yeah.
Okay, so this is the point I'm going to hammer home repeatedly, only because it needs to be repeatedly hammered home. Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to repeat yourself.
Right.
We just live in a time now where people are being saturated and bombarded with distractions.
It's very true.
I was watching a movie the other night, and then I was watching something on YouTube on my phone. Then I beamed it from YouTube up to my TV, totally ignoring the fact I was watching a movie.
Yeah.
The movie itself couldn't hold me, even though I chose the movie. Like, people are being distracted and bombarded by all kinds of nonsense. You need to repeat.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So follow up.
I will have to. I mean, I was definitely going to follow up, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But then the question is, how often do you follow up? Because you don't want to pester people as well. So my idea was I would follow up, you know, relatively closer to the date, because then, you know, they wouldn't feel like kind of bombarded by me, because I already kind of like gun to their head, you better be coming. So I was like, I don't want to keep on going back and kind of nudging them.
That's what we call the Jason method.
Jason method.
Which I think it was the 11th or 10th podcast, he did mention a way to
grow your Instagram
grow Instagram followers is by putting guns to people's heads.
Right.
So I don't know if you two
Effective
talked about it or it's just
no. Maybe it was
It's
just
quite ubiquitous. What is this playbook you're reading from?
I'm not down with this concept, and I just don't understand how you're a very seemingly peaceful person. Doesn't seem like the way of many act.
It's always the peaceful ones that are the craziest, right?
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it exactly. Don't trust the monk. No, that's horrible.
Don't trust the monk.
Yeah.
Continue with promotion.
I guess the only thing I want to say about repetition and how much is too much, I think what I know for a fact is at least 3 for a show, like a single one-off night show, at least 3 separate times on any given platform, it needs to appear and pop up. Now, the question is, if you got the gig today and the show is tonight, like make a post about it, put it on your story, and then post it on your story just before you're about to go on stage, or like an hour before, and give people a chance to get there. Only because, once again, like, repetition is so important. And I just want to quickly hammer this home. It is not cheap. It is not skeezy. It is not like, you're not underselling yourself by using a platform that people use to grab people's attention, for the things you're doing.
Yeah.
That is like what you are doing. That is the purpose you're doing it. So when we had this gig for Lyrebird, and Lyrebird, I think, is the example I want to use for promotion, not Renaissance. Like, we could have promoted that. We're not convincing our friends to like also trek down for like a 5-night festival.
It's not very accessible.
It's not very accessible. But if it is a free gig and all that kind of stuff, well, one, like, make sure there's a Facebook event. Make sure it looks good. Like, you had a poster, Amutha, and it looked awesome.
Killed
the
it.
details are in there. Tag all the things. Make it look official. Like, people are either clicking onto a random thing that their friend is doing, or they're clicking onto a night that is happening that's an event.
Yes.
Has to look cool and fun, which you get.
Yeah.
On
Thank
YouTube.
you.
Yep. Hit it real nice. So you post that up, invite a few people. I definitely go like the Facebook Messenger to a few people. Hey, you asked me last time about when I'm doing a gig next. This is it. Hope you can make it. And then post it up on my story that same night. Maybe like give it 3 nights, post it up again. And you just kind of keep mentioning it. So I think over time I've come to accept that the people that I'm burning by posting too much, they weren't going to come anyway.
Right. That's very true.
And it's a good filtering system. But there's so many reasons for repetitions. I just want to hammer it home even further if I can.
Absolutely.
All right. So how do you test a theory? You have to, repeatedly do the same thing, in different environments, different times, and see if it hits home, does what it's intended to do or expected to do, or if it doesn't. Also, when it comes to advertising and marketing, how many times do you see the same ad on TV
That's
or on the
very
internet?
true.
There's a whole reason
Think about
behind it.
that.
It's because you're not actually going to consider doing the thing that you've been told or encouraged to do until you've been told it a whole number of times. Think about, your life with your parents and how many times they tell you to do a thing before you do it.
Yeah.
When it gets to the fifth or the eighth time, it gets a bit more serious. It's like, maybe I should really do this, especially if you've opted into that as well.
Yes.
Which is like, okay, you've identified that this friend or family member has expressed interest earlier, and that's just for, us at this period now, I guess. But, just for general marketing, repetition's great. But yeah, they've expressed interest. You got to let them know a few times. Everyone's forgetful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you tell them once, the chances are very small.
Yeah, absolutely. The other component to repetition is the repetition transcends which gig it is. So the fact that I am over 2020, actually more in 2019, I was gigging pretty often. I would guess that I did about 40 shows in 2019, and I was posting about every single one of them. So then 2020 happened, and obviously all the gigs kind of fall by the wayside, but people know that I gig. And so then it's purely a matter of happenstance. Have I posted about a gig at the right time for someone to see it, and they're available, and it looks kind of interesting to them? Post-COVID, everyone's like, oh my God, there's a gig on. Okay. People were responding to the stories I put up and I'm going to be there. I'm going to bring such and such. I'm going to bring this friend. And so different pockets of people I know came along to it. There were people I invited on Facebook who didn't engage with the Facebook event, who just rocked up. Thank you. If you're watching this, Adam, thank you out there. Hannah, Casey,
Big ups.
for coming down and for just surprising me with your attendance, because what that tells me then is oh, sweet. I am doing the right bits and pieces. I can do more. Yeah, sure. But it doesn't need to be critical. Any last thoughts on this? I realized, yes. Hit me.
I always have so many thoughts, especially when hanging around you two and other Vibe Union members and a lot of people in my life. But
Everyone, really.
I always have a lot of thoughts, especially all of the time.
and sometimes they disappear, which I hope has not just happened. Just give me a few sentences.
Okay,
before.
well...
Just talking about how
so
the people that show up after seeing your stories enough times.
I got it. Thank you so much. The idea is to always act as if you are always gigging, which leads into the next section of conversation, which is rehearsal. But okay, you want to be gigging, so you always have to act and be as though you're gigging, so people know that you are always gigging. They might not catch this show, but they are in the loop and they know that you're always gigging, and if you can continue to put that message out. And as you said, the gigs may blend in, into each other, but that is a good thing because people know that you're always gigging. Maybe you're only doing one gig a month.
Yeah.
Which is good, which is great.
Yeah.
If you're doing 1 gig a month, cool.
Yeah.
But a way to make that, but yeah, say you send the people in your networking or your emailing list or message list, you're telling them 3 times about that gig. You've told them every week that there's a gig. And then it comes the next month, you do the same thing. People think that you've been gigging the whole time.
That's true.
Yep.
But yeah, that comes into rehearsal, which is frequency. And it's you should be rehearsing like you're gigging all the time.
Yep,
Every week you've got a
100%.
gig.
Well, I was just going to say, you actually, to me, are a prime example. I've heard it said that you literally either have your laptop plugged into your aux cord in your car with your set on Ableton playing, start
With
to
a
finish.
mic. Yeah, start
with
to
a
finish.
mic.
Yeah.
So mic in hand, you're driving around town, rehearsing and performing your set.
Yep, absolutely. Well, the thing is, okay, a cool way to rehearse is when you're, almost in autopilot, because that is the mode that you want to kind of lock into when you're on stage.
Flow state.
Yeah, flow state, 100%. So, okay, I'm driving. I can do other things. I can listen to a podcast, blah, 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 blah. but I can rehearse, and if I can get it down while I'm driving, observing, hopefully doing the right thing on the road, which I will say I am doing the right thing on the road, even with one mic in the hand. Some people drive manual. I drive with a mic.
There we go.
Nice.
Right?
He drives a
Still
different kind of
something in my
stick.
hand. Yeah, exactly. But to always be rehearsing, in that state means that when I'm on stage, it's like, oh, I'm not driving, but I know how to do this set pretty well. Yeah, and
really
look,
good.
like not everyone can do that, but you know, if you've got a Bluetooth speaker in your car or whatever, if you drive or if you travel around, instead of listening to whatever great music you like listening to, just rehearse.
Yeah.
A couple times a day.
Yeah, nice.
Even if it's you've got a 15-minute set, you do it twice or whatever, half an hour every day. You're set, and then you're not worried about that. That means you can focus on everything else.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. No, I just completely agree with that.
Cool. What I was going to say that was a really handy tip coming into this set was you created a Vibe Union YouTube set list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And it was just what tracks we're going to be doing.
Right.
And I will admit openly that I came onto that train too late, or like later than I could have or should have.
It's all good.
To get my rehearsal game up, because here are songs that we've only ever done in like 4-bar sections, recording like real tight bars and all that kind of stuff.
And not together.
And only ever for the studio. So I like jump into the booth, record these bars, send them to Rye, and then that's it.
And
Then
he
they
makes them awesome.
He makes them awesome. And then I've forgotten about them. I'll listen to them casually, but like
Right.
I've been hanging out with friends, and this is really cool, by the way. Like, shouts out David. Hanging out with friends, and someone will be like, "Oh yeah, that time like you dropped like Antenta Kumpo like in a rhyme in a bar, like that was crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, right. Set the like," and I can't even remember the lyrics because I've just not revisited that song.
Yeah.
So having that frequency, that repetition down is so vital. So there I was driving around town, and I'm like, "What should I? Oh no, hang on, I've got this thing to listen to."
Right.
And it did two things: one, lyric memorization right up through the roof, but two, it gave me a sense for like, what is the flow? One track ends and I can start intuiting what the next one is going to be. And it's obviously different from the way that they appear in our playlist.
It's as
From,
as
like,
close
what we
as we
used to.
need.
As close as we need. Yeah, sorry, from our original like vibrations 20 in a given order. So do this. Like if you're someone who listens to albums, like go and play a single off of an album and you'll start hearing, like your brain starts doing the crossfade into the next track.
Expecting the next thing,
Yeah.
or it's already set. A context has already been set by the idea of the track that was meant to come before it, but you've just like come into it.
Yeah.
Not fresh.
Yeah. So I think rehearsal above everything else is then about familiarity. So, this might not apply to everyone. Some of you might just be solo performers and producers, and that's cool too. But I think it really was important for us to rehearse together in the same space.
Yep.
To get a feel for like what is each person doing and being able to play off of each other's energies. And I think for me personally, like we've spoken about this in other terms in Vibe Union, creates a group accountability. I'm showing up to rehearsal and I've got nothing prepared. Man, I feel a little bit down on myself about it, and I feel like I'm letting the crew down.
Yeah.
So then for next time, okay, what can I do to change that?
Right.
If you're just holding yourself to account for rehearsal, I don't know about you, you might be super disciplined and motivated, but things tend to fall by the wayside, or you give yourself too much credit and too much room, and you have nothing to reflect against.
Yeah. I agree. I can't really. I'm getting distracted looking at that whiteboard. Sorry,
Oh,
because
okay.
there are
So
just words
funny.
in front of me, and now my eyes just keep gravitating towards these words. But I'll focus on the conversation now.
No,
Sorry.
you're so good. All right, well, which words?
I've got.
Okay,
I
you
got a
words
little.
on this.
I mean, as I said before, I've got thoughts. I'm going to pipe in.
Yeah.
Very happy about it. So, and it trails on for like why I rehearsed in my car is because it's a comfortable space. It's important. It's important to go from like, okay, comfortable space. You rehearse in a comfortable space, and then you have to simulate what the stage might be like.
Yeah, that's-
Right.
yeah.
Which I guess for us in this instance was easier because we're rehearsing in front of each other, group accountability, which is easier than individual accountability.
Yes.
I guess in a way,
Yeah, yep.
right? Because it's a shared load. I only have to remember this much. But if I remember my stuff and a bit of your stuff and a bit of your stuff
Yeah.
and vice versa, which is I think probably one of the key elements that helped us on stage was knowing the whole thing all together.
Yes.
And the first rehearsal, like because we had to rewrite some new verses, some bits and pieces. There were new things plenty of stuff that we hadn't ever rehearsed before.
Yep.
So to remember all of that, was difficult. And but yeah, once we do that, and like everyone, you always through practice is just a lot of failure until you get it okay or good.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what practice is. It's like I don't get it, so I got to get it. So I will continue to do until I kind of get it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate that point of like when you know other people's lines, or you can at least ad lib appropriately over different sections, you create chemistry on stage, and people feel that interconnectedness, and they are more inclined to follow your journey rather than 5 separate people on stage just doing their part and ducking out.
Yeah.
Like to create that energy on stage makes a world of difference.
It becomes our tracks.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Bang on.
We're like one giant unit of
yeah.
expression rather than 5 individual streams.
Yeah.
Vibe union.
That's it.
buddy.
Oh.
I guess in terms of rehearsal, the only other thing I really want to stress was how much fun it was experimenting and playing. Just like coming up with different voices. Like, our track Interface. I love that because it is a character joint. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely love getting into this, like, okay, I'm this like
So
menacing
good.
ringmaster bringing people in.
So good.
And I just like, and then I was doing stuff here where I would like, okay, now I'm going to do it in this really weird tone.
Yeah,
Or then it's
yeah.
like, beautiful infection.
Yeah.
Like rats ad lib.
Yeah, like,
things that.
super playing it up or super playing it down or everything in between.
Yeah.
The idea of play, experiment, very important. And you got to flesh things out. You got to like try things until it kind of feels, cool. And we didn't like choreograph anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And maybe we will a bit in the future. Maybe that's something we'll like slowly get into. But like, yeah, if you want to do a show or a gig with a group of people and you think that you can go into it with just knowing your shit, I mean,
No.
it's just that it's
not gonna
never going to translate.
You're
and
part
people
of
are
a
going to
group.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
People are going to be like, oh, like, are they even like together?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that play and that experimentation, like one, is awesome because, like this is a philosophy I really have, especially when you're going into the booth to record something. Give it like 150, 200%. Do it as weird and as funny and absurd as you can make it.
Such a good point.
Because then when you turn it back down into what feels natural, you're still warmer and more stretched out than from the zero that you were starting.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're either forcing to get up to this level, or you've done this really absurd, bizarre thing, and you've like recorded at this crazy volume, and now when you bring it back here, you're naturally just projecting a little bit better.
Yeah, you've tested the limits, right? And I trap for me, even bringing it back to the car rehearsal is like, okay, cool, I get the lines in my car, but is that a performance? Is that me owning the stage, acknowledging crowd, acknowledging everyone else that I'm doing my thing with or that's around?
Yeah.
So you really got to like simulate it as close to possible. And I would say like, I feel like we didn't, I don't know if this is a great judgment or not, but I feel like we didn't go 150%. We went like 80% when it came to our practice
Yeah.
for live bird rehearsal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which, is appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, appropriate.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. So long as we know that, then,
Right.
right? Is we know where we're at, and then we can always just ham it up, play it more, play it less.
Yeah.
You explore what there is to do, and then you can always dial it back. So yeah, experiment and have fun with it. That's what rehearsals are for. So, I think I've definitely been a part of some groups or even like playing sports, right? And you come up to practice like playing cricket, come up to the nets, and instead of bowling a certain way, I'll try bowling a different way. And the coach will be like, you save that for when you come down here by yourself. It's like, okay, on the one hand, I kind of pay that. But on the other hand, like we're here to train.
Right.
I can't do that by myself. I need a guy to do that with, right? So being able to do that here and do these odd things. I know that there are bits and pieces of our sets at Lyrebird and Renaissance that were like made here in rehearsal. And, being able to back each other up or like you came up with the idea of like dreaming should start with just me and then you come in and kind of provide this, next step. So doing that helps you find those moments. Otherwise, where else are you going to do it?
And a lot more awkward to figure that out on stage.
Totally.
You would still learn.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I would say, I guess like a little callback to repetition and that kind of stuff. But, and to always be gigging, we gig, but there are open mics. And if you just go out and do things all the time, then you fill in those gaps.
Mm-hmm.
When you're starting off, maybe you can't book something every month. That's fine. There's always things to do though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coming into another topic that I guess is super important, but we don't recognize it until it is hitting us in the face, and that is tech. I think that was probably, if there's one element I wish we had gotten right, is the tech and the sound. Like we definitely copped a bunch of feedback in the Renaissance set, and it's hard to pinpoint what caused it.
And it really, I mean, everyone is hyper aware of how much that affects, artists on stage. It also creates like a level of awkwardness all around, from audience perspective, but us also being like, oh, well, that's not the desired result. So that's a little bit unfortunate, isn't it? But you don't always get to do a sound check.
Yeah.
Right?
But what I will say is like, we still owned those moments. I think that's really important. Like the feedback happens and, life goes on and you don't lose focus on expressing yourself. You don't get thrown off by that. I think that's very important.
It's how you respond to that, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that comes from good planning, good rehearsal. Is
experience as well.
We knew with ourselves. Yeah, exactly. Experience. We knew within ourselves that we're here to have a good time. Right back to our intention. We're here to enjoy. We're here to collaborate.
Yeah.
So I think when you have an intention to collaborate, and it feels like someone is letting the team down by messing something up. It could be sound guy. It could be one of us with the mics. It could be the mic itself. But no, we're here to collaborate and have a good time together. We're here for the audience to have a good time.
Yep.
It's not in our intention to get mad, upset, or derailed by that. Our intention is to have things flowing and feel smooth. How do we go from the feedback, which is now stopped, into more of the set? You have that right from the outset. So in terms of the tech, there are always going to be things you can't control, but there are things that you can control.
How do you overcome it?
Yeah. Absolutely. And then there are the components like making and having a list for the tech. Rye's got some thoughts. Here we go. Yes.
I got to say something. Never make it a point that it's the tech's fault on stage.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think I've done this when I was starting out, and I think I see a lot of people who start out do it, is they kind of make a joke about it and say like, oh, they speak into the microphone and say, hey, can I get a little bit more of me in the fallback? Don't mention you in the fall. Like, don't mention those little tech things, I think, in the microphone. Unless they're like so far away, there's no other way of communicating to them, maybe.
Which I did to Rye at Lyrebird. And looking back at the footage of that, the beat was already awfully loud, and I'm like, I'm worried the beat. And it was stupid. But yeah, I guess like learn how to hand sign all of these things. Be very subtle about, and you want to always have a positive relationship with the person who's on the sound desk, doing whatever. But so continue.
I think realizing the situation, like on a smaller stage, is a lot harder to get it exactly right. So you kind of need to just be ready to deal with it. And I think in those cases as well, it's a much more personal experience with the audience. So it's a weird look to be like, I'm kind of putting the blame of my bad set. Not that it is necessarily a bad set. In fact, no one thinks that.
Oh, it was a bad set, right?
The audience never thinks it's a bad set. It's like if you swear on radio, never make a point about it. If you don't bring it up, no one's ever going to mention it because no one was paying attention. You freaking out about it is the thing that will draw attention to it. So, unfortunately, you just kind of have to deal with it on stage and just move on.
Don't acknowledge fault.
Yeah.
Don't say sorry. Fucking keep smiling.
That said, I do that all the time with my lyrics. I forget my lyrics and I make a big fucking hullabaloo about forgetting lyrics, and then my girlfriend is always like, I had no idea you forgot any lyrics. Like,
nobody knows.
Fuck, I did it again. Oh, fuck, I swore on the podcast. Oh, fuck, damn it.
He's out.
The fact that they can follow Wrath in the first place is a mean feat. How are they meant to know what he's going to say?
Yeah.
This is true.
So I think, there was this moment that like being able to just go, oh yeah, we love a bit of feedback.
Yeah.
And just like, let us know how we're doing and stuff like that. Like, can you laugh it off? If you feel like you can, absolutely. But if you're purely doing it to be like, you know what? I'm not normally this crappy. I'm not this sucky. Hey man, you need to fix this. Don't do that. The show must go on.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're totally right. It leaves such a foul taste in everyone's mouth when that happens, and we've all done it. So,
absolutely. In terms of like, I guess some things to prepare for. Like, Amutha, I love that you came to me and were like, "Hey Mash, have you got your laptop with an SD card reader?" Like, this is at Renaissance Festival. We're in the middle of the bush. I was like, "No, why?" But what was the reason that you were asking me?
So I went back and I remixed the track that I was going to do. And so I had the newer version on the SD card. And it was like, it didn't, like, if we had the reader, it would have been nice. I could have survived without it, which I did. But yeah, it was those little things that you just don't even think are going to be an issue. And then later on. So like what would be most helpful is like while you're actually rehearsing to note down what equipment you're using. And like that would be like, it would be nice to just have a checklist. And like, if we had known the SD card reader like was used at some point and we're like, let's just bring it again. Or I would have said, I might bring another copy. We should bring it again. It would have been helpful in those moments to have it like actually written down.
The reason I asked you that was, twofold. So preparing all your tech, that's the sound, that's the equipment, knowing what equipment you're going to be using.
Yeah.
Are you consistently using the same equipment from rehearsals into performance space? Like if I went from, say, that mic to this mic, then I would have a lot of trouble because that mic requires a fair bit more oomph. This one is very like, picks up a bit of everything. It's a dynamic, but it's meant to be, it feels like a condenser. The reason I asked about the SD card was actually about having backups. Do you have backups of your sound? No, absolutely. So in that situation, you only had it on the one format and that was the only version that was the best one.
on SD card format, by
On
the way.
SD card format, right? So that's it. So understanding what
Imagine
is
giving
gonna
that to a DJ.
Okay,
Let's
so
snap it.
So here's the thing. Would you rather, as a DJ, have an SD card or a CD handed to you in 2021? Because I have a story for you, sir.
Please, let me hear it, man. I hope it's a CD.
Back in 2019, went to the Cypher thing and I got promised like I would get to have a set. And I went up to the guy and he was like being real iffy about it, right? He was just like, "No, man, I'm the DJ. I'm waiting for the people to dance," which already was a warning sign. If you're the DJ, you're playing songs and you're waiting for the people to dance, you're not a good DJ.
They'll dance sometime soon.
Yeah, right? They have no choice except to walk out the front door. So I finally like pleaded with this guy to be like, "Listen, man, they're not going to dance. I know what they're here for. I know these people. They're here to see me do a set. Like that's what I told them, and that's what you told me. I get to play a set." So he's like, "Okay, fine, whatever. Do your set. Have you got your music?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Pulled out a USB stick. Here we go. Here's the tracks. I've got them in two folders. One's MP3, one's .wave. Like,
perfect.
You tell me what you want. They're numbered. I just want you to play track one of either format. Go for your life. And he looks at me and he goes, "Bro, have you got a CD? This is a CDJ." I was like, "Yeah, but there's a USB port right here. I'm sorry, I'm not a DJ, but I know how CDJs work. You've got a USB port." He's like, "Yeah, but there's already someone else's music plugged in." I'm like, "Okay, guy." So we had like an argument for a while. And it blew my mind that this guy was obsessed with, "I'm sorry, the only thing available to me right now is a CD." So him as a DJ was a total letdown in that moment. I wish that I had it on another format, any other track, anywhere else, maybe.
True. Even though you provided the standard, but the thing is, you always have to know like what they have.
Yeah.
Like it's you're not running that show.
Yeah.
You're performing. It's their responsibility to be like, "This is what we have.
Yes.
You've got to fit into that."
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of the time, all you'll need is that USB.
Yeah.
But what if somehow you need to play it from your phone? Is it up on SoundCloud, whatever, Google Drive? Is it everywhere?
Yeah.
It literally has to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So accessible that even if you lose that USB,
Yeah.
it's on the other thing, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. So have backups. Whatever it's of, have backups. I think can't stress that enough. And I think just the two, USB and on your phone in a quality that you rate at least. And if you've got it somewhere on cloud, even better. Have a drive or a Dropbox or whatever folder that's just called My Instrumentals.
Yeah.
And whether you're sending them that link or whether you're downloading it to your phone, it doesn't matter. Make sure you have that, because I have seen performers get up on a stage and then demand that the DJ open up SoundCloud, log into their SoundCloud, follow them so they can get their private track list to play their instrumental set. And it's like, nah, man, if you got to meet people halfway.
You've forfeited your right.
Huge.
Yeah.
If you're not giving everyone the easiest way to you and your thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, if you're watching this right now and you're like, damn, I've only ever got them on one USB drive that has a weird USB cable connection. If you're one of those people right now, you need to do these 3 things. 1, pause this video. Thanks for pausing. Come back. Go down to the bottom, comment, and be like, thanks for the advice, Vibe Union. That's number 2. And then number 3, now actually pause the video and go and like make the backup. Put it on drive somewhere. Put it on a real USB drive. Don't care if it's a promotional USB drive that you got that has photos of you going down some slide at Disney World. Erase those photos. Put your tracks on it.
Yes.
You need a USB.
They're so cheap. What are we even talking about?
Like $2 probably you could get.
Equivalent.
Yeah.
Every gig is $1 these days.
A gig
even
$1.
less than that, really. But yeah, it really ties into the idea of always being prepared and ready for a show. Yeah. You know, think about all the things that can go wrong. Prepare for that, and yeah.
So like in terms of tech, I think that's the biggest side of things. Make sure you're using the same equipment, as we said, like microphone. If you're used to it, that's fantastic. And yeah, give yourself multiple options where you can.
I'll drop another quick idea in there.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so every single time you do a gig, open mic, organized gig, whatever it is, talk to the sound person as if they're a pal.
Yep.
Be friendly. Ask them questions. You know, especially if you think that they are stupid, because that is when you will learn. Mm-hmm. And you're also, it's interesting because you're giving that person some power to be like, cool, you don't know as much as me. Well, this is that, and
nice.
that, and that. And you're like, okay, we'll know that for next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, you know, it's up to them if they want to, you know, help you more or like do the best that they can for you. Like there's such an important relationship there.
Yeah.
You hopefully, if you're on this path of doing gigs, you will probably run into them into the future. You know, if you were an asshole last time, they won't give a fuck next time.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a really important element. Talk to the people who you're working with who are part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. That's easily the best advice. In terms of tech, befriend the sound person. Befriend whoever's doing tech, whether that's lights, whether that's sound. Because if they like you and they see you as someone who's trying, suddenly they want to pull out all the stops to help you try harder.
Yeah.
If they see you as someone who already knows everything, and we're like, okay, cool. Well, I guess I'm just going to press play and then whatever happens, happens, right? They're going to be smug about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've gotten both ends of that. I got the smug people early on when I was like, hey, man, I've got these tracks and I think I'm meant to front at you and like, here, play the tracks. And they're all in order already. And it didn't go well. And then from then on, I was like, okay, cool, man. Like, hey, here, I've got these things. Can you tell me what I need to do with them?
Right,
and
yeah.
that flip instantly makes such a difference.
It's such a good point. Because, oh my God, like your character can really like put so many different spanners in the works.
Oh,
like
yeah.
your character can really get in the way of the overall seamless experience that could be you up on stage. And yeah, just like that sound person can teach you so much. They can do little things that will help you that if they didn't do, you wouldn't, you know, sound as good. But yeah, treat them like pals, and that's where you're going to learn the most, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to performance night. It's an hour before the set. Where are you? What are you doing? Are you warming up? And what does that look like?
So just basing it off like what we've been doing recently and even just in the past, my own experience with performing is like, I always make sure, because I'm like mainly singing as well, I don't like to wear out my voice too soon. I don't know what it's like for rapping. You might use your voice a bit differently, but I tend to like, you know, strain a little bit because I'm still learning how to sing. And so what I'll do is I'll warm up in the morning. It's like a full day for me, you know, warm up in the morning and then kind of relax and then just do a little bit of singing scattered between that. And then it was really nice what we did, which was just chilling out, sitting down, just having a really, really, really casual run through of what we're going to do. And maybe even playing the set list just earlier on in the day, just to be like, all right, here's game day. Like, let's just sit with this and see what it feels like.
So well said. It's kind of like All right, so we had been rehearsing a bunch, especially on our own. Obviously, the day on game day, the idea is you've already done all the work.
Yeah.
So, do a couple of like loose runs of, it's like the same idea of a sport game. You do a bit of like stretching and warming up before the game. You're not going to go like just right into it without, just out of bed, right, stiff. But you've already done all the work. So do the small things, like whether it's, that cup of tea, 30 minutes before you get on stage so your throat is good. You've got your bottle of water, you've eaten not just before, right? But also you're not starving as well. You want to like have some room where you just kind of feel like, you don't want to feel lethargic. You want to feel light and kind of, bouncy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say 90 minutes on meals. Personally, like 90 minutes is about the window.
Cool.
Any less than that, and I feel it, like whatever I've had. And so 90 minutes or more. I'm more than happy to perform hungry.
Better.
Performing
I
on
think
a fuller stomach.
Got to be hungry.
Yeah, got to be hungry. I find, things like hunger or really needing to pee, I can channel those. That's energy for me. Unless it's like at, knocking on heaven's door, I think is a different story. But
That's a controversial point with the peeing. Like,
sure. Yeah.
Like certainly a different experience to needing to poo, which I would say just make sure like don't eat too much, sort all that out. Like don't leave that up to the gods. Like that's not a wise idea at all. But I mean, for me, my fear would be, okay, I might pee myself on stage.
Okay.
Because again, the moment I get in the flow, maybe I relax too much. Maybe I'm too excited. Maybe I'm straining too much in that time. Right? I don't know. Like why you're laughing out there. Maybe similar experience or thoughts.
I'll tell you what. I'm never consciously going on stage with a full bladder. I'm never like, if I have more than 5 minutes before I'm about to go on, I will go pee.
Yeah.
But the energy, I think, is the same. Of like, there's a certain primal need happening inside you that, like, personally, I'm able to channel, and that can be hunger, that can be like anger. I guess one thing I want to talk about in my preparation, that my favorite shows, especially if I know I'm going to be like emceeing for Sikandar or something like that, where it's not necessarily rehearsed material, it's more playing the crowd. I love to wander through the venue. Like my worst nightmare personally is getting to the venue 5 minutes before my set, going on relatively cold. Like even if I've been warming up all day, getting there just before I go on stage and performing. I don't know these people. I don't know the energy of this room. Like as someone who, like I've come to accept through all the music that I've been doing and all the performing I've been doing, I have an innate internal antenna that reads the vibe of the room and wants to play and recycle that energy. So for me, like one of my favorite shows has been playing at like 3 a.m. at a venue and watching one set of people be there and leave, and another set of people be there and leave, and that happened 3 times that night, and I felt the energy shift each time.
Beautiful.
And knowing what's remaining, like feeling like what that has coalesced into, meant that when I got on stage, the first thing I did was just like, okay, everyone, I'm going to show you a magic trick. Like I felt like I had the balls to start non-musically to bring and I was just like, okay, here we go. Here's what we're going to do. I need everyone on the count of 3 to take a big breath in. And everyone did. And I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, let's all let it out. Ha, ha. And everyone, so just in sync, an entire room full of people just breathed.
Wow.
And then just for a kicker, I went, okay, there we go. That's the magic trick. We just all transported through time together. And they're like, there was this moment of like, fuck, this guy's really cheesy or something like that. But it just equalized everything. And in that moment, I knew I had this entire room.
Love it.
Now it was mine to
Love
lose.
it.
But because I'd read the energy, I just went, yeah, I have confidence. I've been here longer. I have seniority over these people, I felt, on a certain level. And then being able to channel that and play that, that's my warm-up.
Oh, so beautifully articulated, Mash. There's something like you can take something so abstract and just give it life so precisely. I really appreciate what you just said. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was beautifully said. It ties into, it is such a good practice. I guess like the idea is, okay, get there early, right? That ties into preparation.
Yep.
It also ties into this idea of like respecting everything that's happening before, during, and after you.
Nice.
As well.
Yep.
And it could be as simple as, I'll give a good example that everyone in this room can relate to. Connor's just gone outside to play the guitar, but I'm not sure if he's gone to Bar Usu. I'm not sure.
I think he might have popped in once.
I think
so.
So, okay, we've done the open mic at Bar Usu a whole bunch on Tuesday nights, right?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like a lot of where Vibe Union, kind of grew together, knew each other on stage through music, etc. The way I approached my open mic session, 15-minute slot at Bar Usu was get there early. 3, 4, 5 acts early. Like, it's not all about me. It's not all about me. Go there, right, you read the room, you absorb the room, you understand, you get the feeling of things, you know what's happened before, the lead up to you being there. You've like paid your respect to other artists, you've been like nice, big ups to you doing you. We're all here to do the thing, whatever the thing is, right?
Yep.
And that's going to help with, any anxiety or stress that you have because you've had time to kind of, assimilate to that space. You're not coming in 5 minutes beforehand.
Yep.
You are already prepared. You are now absorbing the room, becoming of the moment with everyone else, And that really adds to when you finally get up there, people have seen you around. You've either bought a drink or talked to somebody or gone to the toilet or whatever the fuck. People have seen your face. They maybe have already subconsciously or consciously accepted you into, the place, like the performance. They might already like that guy. Oh, I saw him. He's been around for a bit.
Yeah.
He's
Hand
one of
out
the person
some
who's
smiles.
clapping. Yeah.
Just
Hand
go around,
out some smiles.
smile at people.
Just look at a
Just form
couple
a
people.
little
And
relationship.
even if it's a weird nod, maybe we don't know if it's a smile or a growl or a scowl. Like, just acknowledge a couple of people in there. Yeah, I think that accounts for so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that adds to like, okay, now I've already talked to the sound person.
Yes.
I already know that. That's
Yeah.
fine. I did it 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big point.
Yeah, amazing. Never shy away from that. Hand out some smiles. I love that. One thing, and this could be pure internal delusion, and I will never try to actually test this.
That's
but
so
part
beautiful.
part of it is like you're silently introducing yourself to the room, to the crowd,
100%.
as the performer. Like
Yeah.
personally, I like to wear outrageous shit on stage. So chances are I'm rocking up to the venue wearing that outrageous shit. And I'm there an hour early. And there's no music. There's just some house music playing. And I'm obviously the most oddly dressed person in the room.
They already know you.
People already know me and they're looking at me. And if I'm just sitting in a corner only talking to like 2 people or just looking at my phone the whole time, and then suddenly I get up on stage, they're going to be like, who's this wanker?
Yeah.
Exactly. They're like, oh, that, he was so detached. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Whereas if I've walked around and handed out smiles and I get up on stage, people are like, oh, it's that wanker.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's the guy. So that difference is really essential. And for me personally, then is building confidence. Like as someone makes eye contact, kind of checks me out a little bit and is like, what's going on with this guy? I'm like, sweet. That's one more person that is going to know who I am when I get up on stage.
Yes.
They're going to recognize me. They're going to, and this has happened. Usu's the perfect place for it. There's people that are about to leave and like you watch them getting their jackets on and you get up on stage and they're like, oh shit, it's that guy. And they're
I
like,
was wondering if he was going to perform later on.
I was wondering what that guy's deal was. I thought he was just a weird guy, maybe selling drugs out the back. But no,
Right.
he's like walking around. He's just genuinely saying hi to lots of people, and now he's up on stage. Let's check him out.
Yeah.
And then it's up to them one song in whether or not they want to stick around. So that I know that started as warm up. But yeah, very much about how to feel out the space. I think that, we've obviously done it a lot. So I think it feels quite intrinsic and natural. But even as you hit open mics, you're going to feel this feeling of like, I'm playing to a room of 3, I'm playing to a room of 30, whatever it is, big or small the number, you will start to feel that there are differences in energies. And the longer you can spend in there, the more you can get that feeling. And then the best case scenario is you start to sort of give that back out with your own flavor on top rather than just here's what I do. You take the energy that's in the room and say, hey, this is what we're all feeling and here's me articulating it.
Yes. Oh, just couldn't have been said better. I don't even want to add anything to that. That's just it.
Never you mind then. Moving right along. So I guess this all sort of ties back in. I think we're sort of more or less done with the performance aspect. One other quick bit of warm up I wanted to talk about though was before our set at Renaissance, we were off to the side. We've checked in at sound check. We've said, hey, Matrix, who was an amazing sound guy.
Absolutely.
Checked in with him and said, hey, man, we're here. Like, we got all our stuff ready. And he goes, yeah, cool. Like, I'll get you guys on for a sound check in 10 minutes.
I know what you're about to talk about.
So we're standing on the
so
side and there's some beats playing. And I was just like you kicked it off. You were just like, yo, like we're standing with our bags and just started freestyling. And normally I'm like, man, Dilly Dave, what a killer freestyler. I could never like hold a candle to him. I'm just going to like stand.
That's what I think about you. How dare you?
That's really sweet. Normally I'll just like let the moment pass me by, especially in casual moments. I think like I just need to own that more and just be like, I'm a freestyler. I can freestyle whenever.
Also, we're about to go on stage. Am I ready?
Exactly.
What's happening? This is a moment. Like, cool, but also, I mean, are we on now? Are we on in 3 minutes?
Yeah. And so then in that moment, I just went, okay, cool. Well, like Dilly handed it off to me and I just kind of kept rapping with it. And we just kept passing that around. And before we knew it, like I was already like energetic and bouncy and like wearing some fly shit and like feeling really excited. And then was just like, okay, let's just keep it rolling. We're just making stuff up. There's a beat playing. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
You had the camera out and suddenly we're like, just vibing and just really enjoying.
So good.
So if you have the luxury of getting to play with a crew or even just go to one of your own performances and you have some people around you, like try and soak up the vibe and make it your own in your own way. Like one thing that helped me do was just go, okay, if I can mess up freestyles on the side of the stage, I can feel comfortable with the fact that I have a lot of lyrics to put out when I'm on the stage.
Yeah.
And whatever happens. I got these people here with me and they got my back. And I got these awesome people in the audience like watching along as well. Bless them too.
Yeah.
But it helps you feel in your zone and in your element if you can just be doing some of what you're going to be doing later.
Yeah.
And that, just one big massive highlight of performance. And I'm sure that footage is going to look dope. I'm sure we're going to bring it out somewhere soon.
Absolutely. It really calls back to something that I guess like all of us talk about, which is, just being the ability to be present in that moment because you've done all the preparation leading up to it, because we have some kind of rapport, because we're comfortable, with the idea of playing, experimenting, whether that's freestyle or like methods for rehearsing. Like, as I said earlier, all of this kind of stuff is easier to do as a group. But the things like building rapport in the room or space you're about to perform, that's kind of like an unspoken gem.
Yeah.
Because I think the only way that any of us figured that out was literally to like do it or like fall into doing that because you didn't do that all the other times. And you're like, okay, this is good because now I'm actually here 40 minutes before my thing. I'm not normally early.
Yep.
Cool, I've got that opportunity. Oh, this is the sound guy. Cool. They look like they're free at the moment. I can maybe go chat with them.
Yeah.
There's a couple other artists I've identified. I've decided to talk to them. And now it feels like we're all performing together instead of me just performing to everyone else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Just really understanding all of those different dynamics. There's a lot to take into, but if you're always in the motion of being prepared, rehearsing, organizing, you'll be sweet.
I'm with it.
Just vibe out to everything. Vibe out to absolutely
Such a
everything around
simplification.
you. I'm reaching someone with that, hopefully.
Oh, I'm vibing out right now.
Yeah.
Vibing out, man. Absolutely with that. And I think I think between the two of you there, you've really touched on this final aspect. For me personally, every gig, and very recently have I touched on this, but every gig actually feels like it's a collaboration of every person present.
100%.
It is. In the same way
Yeah.
that you watching this are a part of this existing.
That's it.
Like, sorry to get all metaphysics on you, but like literally this podcast wouldn't be real if you weren't watching it.
That's it.
Because the two have to both happen. If you weren't watching this, we wouldn't have made it.
Nope.
And vice versa. So in the same way, like being up on a stage, being at a festival, being at a show, making a single and sharing it with a friend, that is a collaboration with the audience. And so I said this at Lyrebird and I said it again at Renaissance. Everyone, every sound, every clap, every like knife and fork cutting a piece of pizza on a plate, everyone taking a sip and cheersing a mate, that is actually part of the performance and it feeds back in. I couldn't get over this feeling once we got off stage, and after I'd like emceed for Sikandar as well straight after, There were people dancing. There was a hot couple who were like had been flirtatious throughout the festival. I won't name names, but the two of them had been like dancing and like maybe they will, maybe they won't. But like just seeing them in their element made me like MC about dancing and about flirting.
So good.
And so I had to take that moment. Obviously, like I can't sit there and go this person this and this person that. I just like that inspires my freestyle lyrics to then give that back out. And then, you know, of course I wanted it to work out for them. So I'm like, yes, like, let's just get everyone saying yes. So I'd be like, what are you going to do when, like, what you going to say when, like this? Yes. What you going to say when this happens? Yes. And so then having a whole crowd of people bouncing and saying yes with you. God
I was
damn,
one of them.
Right?
That was
It
fucking
was
there.
such
It
a
was
good
great.
feeling.
Yeah, it was such a great
Yeah.
feeling.
And it's not possible without that rapport, and it is a two-way street. So when you're giving something to the audience authentically and they're giving something back to you, be ready to receive that and give that back. If someone shouts out, yeah, I love you, man, like give that back to them and be like,
Yeah.
I love you too. Whether it's
Right.
been like muted or not, don't ignore them.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need to have that two-way street because it is a collaboration.
Full openness on both ends.
Yep. Yep.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I think that just about rounds it out. Any
I think
parting
so,
thoughts
too.
on
Yeah, I've
how
got
to
a parting
perform?
thought. Our
Yeah.
producer, aka Wrath, just give us one of these.
One of these ones.
One of the universal. Can you guys just literally wind this up? And we already knew that, but yeah, just to see Raya waving the finger in the corner was like a true indication that we've reached truths and we're all ready to move on. So
Continue the journey.
yeah, you know, very happy with everything.
Yeah.
Any final words, Amutha?
Enjoy yourself, and wherever you go, just spread your own unique beauty and love. That's the big message there. But
What Amutha said.
I mean, the audience really should be paying for this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this is the gold.
This is the gold.
Yeah.
Instead of paying us, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share it with your friends, share it with your artist people, and let us know. Are you doing a show? Where are you performing? When are you performing? How can we check it out? Drop it in the comments. We can't wait to check you out, and thanks for checking us out. This is Vibe Union Podcast. Catch us next week again. Peace out.
love you.
Love you.